Chosen one, you are not hidden. Every movement you make, every decision you take, every silence you keep is being studied. You feel it even when you cannot explain it. Eyes that do not belong to men alone, but to systems, shadows, and structures that tremble at your presence. You wonder why the weight of your existence attracts so much attention, why you cannot walk through this life unnoticed. It is because you carry government inside you, a divine authority that extends beyond your personal life into nations, policies, and systems. Just as Pharaoh watched the Israelites multiply with fear in his heart, so too do the rulers of this age watch you with suspicion. They fear that your awakening will disturb their fragile order. They know something about you that you have not fully realized yet. You are not just surviving in this world, you are sent to govern under God's command. This message is not a coincidence arriving in your path today. It is a confirmation that the surveillance surrounding you is not random. It is intentional, it is strategic, and it is fearful. The hidden powers of this world know that you are ordained to speak words that can break chains and dismantle lies. They know that once your voice rises, narratives shift, and when narratives shift, governments tremble. This is why you are studied day and night, why you are followed, why they try to analyze and anticipate your moves. It is because you are more than a believer. You are a ruler in preparation. And before we go deeper, I want you to stop and declare your agreement with this word. Comment below the word authority, leave your like, and subscribe to this channel, because every act of engagement here strengthens the mission and expands the reach of this revelation. Before we go deeper, let me share something with you. Everything I'm saying here connects directly to what I reveal in the Manual of God's Chosen Warrior. It's a 10-step guide to help you rise in kingdom order, to think, act, and lead as one called to reign. You'll find the link in the description and in the first pinned comment. You can explore it later, or click now if you're ready to step into divine leadership. But let me open to you the mystery. What watches you is not only the camera of a system, not only the algorithms of surveillance. It is a spirit that has moved through every age, from the halls of Babylon to the courts of Rome, always fearing the rise of those chosen by God. The eyes upon you are a confession that you already carry impact. Do not confuse their gaze with your weakness. See it as their proof of your strength. For Daniel was observed in his room, Jesus was followed by Pharisees, Paul was shadowed in every city, and you are standing in that same lineage. This is why the moment is urgent. The vigilance of the shadow government is not meant to paralyze you, but to push you into understanding that you are already a threat to the order of lies. The very fact that you are being studied is the evidence that your mission has already begun. The tension that surrounds your life is not random. It is an ancient strategy to silence voices before they rise. You have probably felt that invisible weight pressing on you, questioning whether you are paranoid or imagining things. Yet, Scripture shows a pattern. Before Moses confronted Pharaoh, his steps were watched. Before Jesus began his public mission, his words were already scrutinized. The eyes on you are not a curse, but a signal. It means your name has been whispered in rooms you have never entered. It means your calling has already pierced the veil of hidden powers. This is not the time to shrink back. This is the time to see what the vigilance truly reveals. You are entering a season where your assignment can no longer be ignored. There is a reason why hidden governments fear the voice of the chosen one. Power built on deception can only survive when truth remains silent. And truth is not an idea. Truth is a force that moves through people like you, called to govern with integrity. This is why Jesus, though he carried no sword, was feared as a revolutionary. This is why Paul, without an army, turned cities upside down. You, chosen one, carry that same disruptive authority. They do not fear your presence alone. They fear your words, your decrees, your narrative. Because whoever shapes the narrative shapes the future of nations. This is why their eyes are fixed on you day and night. It is not just technological surveillance you are facing. It is spiritual warfare disguised as politics. Every algorithm, every data collection, every silent observation is part of a deeper attempt to control the story before it is told. This is why Daniel was forbidden to pray publicly. It was not about prayer alone. It was about silencing the demonstration of a higher kingdom. The same is happening to you. They hope that by studying you, they will find a weakness to exploit, a way to predict your moves, to keep you quiet. But what they fail to see is that your narrative does not come from you. It comes from God, and no human system can intercept a decree that was born in heaven. And you must understand the urgency of this hour. The hidden powers do not simply observe. They plan. They build counter-narratives. They plant false images of you. They create distractions to dilute your influence. They know that if your voice rises unfiltered, you will expose their lies. This is not paranoia. This is history repeating itself. Every prophet, every reformer, every leader of integrity faced the same opposition. The difference now is that the battleground is digital and global. Yet the principle remains: whoever controls the narrative controls the people. And you, chosen one, are being prepared to reclaim that narrative under divine authority. But do not mistake this as a sign to hide or to become silent. Silence does not protect the chosen one. It suffocates the mission. The Word of God never instructs the called to retreat into secrecy when truth is at stake. Even Jesus, knowing he was being watched, continued to speak in the temples. Even Paul, aware of spies, preached openly. Prudence is wisdom, but fear is bondage. This is the hour to learn the difference. Speak when led, act with discernment, but never hand over your narrative to those who want to rewrite it. Your words are not simply statements. They are decrees that echo in the spiritual and political realms. Look back at history. No empire has feared a weapon as much as it has feared an idea. No government has feared an army as much as it has feared a voice of truth. This is why regimes burn books, silence journalists, persecute prophets. They understand that the real revolution begins with language. And your words, chosen one, are language from another kingdom. When you speak, you do not just share opinions. You release order, justice, and government. This is what they fear. This is why they watch. You are not an influencer. You are a legislator of truth in a world addicted to deception. And the scriptures confirm this. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. John chapter 1, verse 1. Everything begins with a word. Nations rise and fall on the power of a word. Policies are drafted, laws are passed, and wars are waged because of words. And when a chosen one begins to speak, to decree, to align their voice with heaven, entire systems shake. This is your reality. This is why you are under surveillance. Not because you are weak, but because your potential words carry government. And government is always feared by those who rule through control rather than legitimacy. The moment you begin to understand the power of your own words, you also begin to understand why you are so closely observed. Every regime, whether ancient or modern, understands that before a movement begins, it is a thought, and before a thought spreads, it is spoken. This is why they invest more in surveillance than in dialogue. They are not trying to know you to bless you. They are trying to know you to contain you. They hope that by collecting fragments of your life, they will weaken your focus, plant doubt in your mind, and make you question your legitimacy. But here is the truth. Their obsession with you is the very evidence of your authority. No one studies what they consider irrelevant. Only a seed that carries the power to grow into a tree is carefully watched and fenced off. When you begin to grasp this, fear loses its hold, because you realize you are not simply being watched, you are being acknowledged as a force. In spiritual reality, the study of your life is a counterfeit of something divine. God Himself searches the heart of a leader before raising him. David was watched in the fields by the eyes of heaven long before he sat on the throne of Israel. The difference is that God watches to refine and strengthen, while hidden systems watch to sabotage and weaken. Yet even their watching cannot prevent your rising, because what is born of heaven cannot be cancelled by the earth. This is why Daniel's prayers were monitored. His enemies thought they could use his devotion to trap him, but instead, they became witnesses of his deliverance. The same will happen with you. Their files on you will become testimonies of your integrity. Their recordings of your words will become archives of prophecy fulfilled. This is the paradox of being chosen. Your surveillance becomes your evidence. Politically, the world has entered a phase where information is more valuable than gold. Data is power, narratives are weapons, and attention is currency. Hidden governments know that controlling a person's story is more effective than controlling their body. This is why they try to rewrite your reputation before you even speak. They may plant rumors, distort your intentions, or shadow your achievements. But if your foundation is truth, every lie collapses over time. The scriptures say, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue that rises against you in judgment you shall condemn." Isaiah chapter 54, verse 17. This is not poetic language, it is a legal decree. It means that even in the court of public opinion, your integrity will outlast their manipulation. Your role is not to fight every rumor, but to continue speaking truth until the false narratives exhaust themselves. This hour demands discernment, like never before. Not every platform is your pulpit, and not every invitation is your assignment. The hidden systems hope to lure you into traps by giving you opportunities that are not aligned with your calling. They know that one careless statement can be twisted into a weapon against you. This is why Jesus often spoke in parables. It was not just a teaching style, it was a protective strategy. He gave truth only to those ready to receive it. You must do the same. The chosen one does not throw pearls before swine, not out of arrogance, but out of stewardship. Your voice carries weight, and weight must be placed on structures that can bear it. Otherwise, it can be used against you. This is not fear. It is wisdom, and wisdom is part of your authority. You are standing at the intersection of two kingdoms, one built on control and one built on truth. The kingdom of control operates through fear, surveillance, and manipulation. The kingdom of truth operates through freedom, transparency, and justice. When you speak, you are not merely expressing opinions, you are representing a government that cannot be shaken. This is why your words attract resistance. Every decree you make, every truth you proclaim, weakens the grip of falsehood on the minds of people. You are not simply a participant in this era. You are a legislator of heaven in the earth. This is your real identity, and it is this identity that provokes surveillance. You are not just an individual being monitored. You are an embassy of another government. And as you continue to rise, you will notice the tactics intensifying. False friendships may emerge. Interviews may be requested. Partnerships may be offered, all designed to draw out information about you. They will try to get you to reveal your strategies, your future moves, your private prayers. But remember this: secrecy for its own sake is not power, but discernment is. Jesus himself said, "Be wise as serpents and harmless as doves." Matthew chapter 10, verse 16. This is not a call to paranoia. It is a call to strategic living. It is about knowing when to reveal and when to conceal, when to speak and when to remain silent, when to walk into a room and when to wait for the right timing. The chosen one must master timing, because timing is part of government. Yet, even in all this tension, you must not let fear take root. Fear is the real weapon of surveillance. They do not simply want your data. They want your confidence. They want to turn your calling into self-doubt. But here is the secret they do not understand. Every eye on you, every ear listening to you, every file they keep about you is serving a purpose higher than theirs. It is documenting the rise of a leader whose authority does not come from them. It is chronicling the journey of someone who was sent to govern, not to be governed. And when the time comes, these very records will testify that you were consistent, that you were integrous, that you were faithful under watch. This is why the surveillance of a chosen one cannot destroy him. It only proves him. Even when you feel invisible, your influence is not. The hidden powers have already mapped your patterns, your language, your silence, and even your hesitations. They are not merely curious about you. They are afraid of what your consistency represents. Daniel prayed 3 times a day, knowing his enemies were watching. And yet, he did not change his routine. Why? Because routine in obedience is stronger than the fear of surveillance. When you continue walking in integrity while being observed, you train your spirit to remain unshaken. This is what separates the chosen one from the ordinary. You are not here to blend in. You are here to lead under God's authority, and leadership under heaven provokes attention from hell and from systems built on deception. There is a price to being a voice in an age of noise. Every time you speak truth, you risk being misunderstood or misrepresented. They will take a line out of your speech, a word out of your mouth, and use it to create an image of you that does not exist. This happened to Jesus when they accused him of planning to destroy the temple. It happened to Paul when they accused him of stirring rebellion. It will happen to you. But remember, your reputation is not your mission. Your mission is to speak the truth you were sent to carry. When your focus is on the assignment, misrepresentation cannot derail you. In fact, it often amplifies your reach, because lies cannot sustain themselves in the presence of sustained truth. The higher your calling, the more intense the opposition. When you feel the heat rising, do not interpret it as failure. Interpret it as confirmation. Opposition is the shadow cast by influence. The more your life carries light, the more defined the shadow becomes. This is why Paul wrote from prison letters that are still transforming nations today. His confinement could not silence his narrative. Neither will surveillance silence yours. They may control the channels, but they cannot control the source of your words. The source is divine, and divine supply does not run dry under pressure. This is your advantage, chosen one. You are not running on your own power. You are running on the power of a kingdom that cannot be shaken. At this stage, you must embrace strategy. Not paranoia, not fear, but divine strategy. Every word you speak should be seeded with purpose. Every move you make should be guided by discernment. The world watches leaders to predict them, but the Spirit leads leaders to confound the watchers. Jesus often withdrew to pray before making decisions. This was not weakness, it was warfare. It was aligning his steps with heaven so that no trap of men could ensnare him. You must cultivate the same rhythm: silence before action, prayer before movement, revelation before declaration. This rhythm is your shield. It keeps you from being predictable. And unpredictability under the guidance of God is protection. There will be moments when silence speaks louder than speech. Not every accusation needs an answer. Not every invitation deserves acceptance. Hidden governments thrive on reactions. They measure your responses to map your vulnerabilities. The chosen one learns to respond from a place of authority, not emotion. Jesus stood silent before Pilate, not because he lacked words, but because he refused to legitimize a false court with his defense. Sometimes your silence will frustrate those who watch you, because they cannot manipulate what they cannot predict. Silence used wisely is not weakness. It is strategy. It is the space where God fights for you while you remain still. Yet silence is not withdrawal. This is not a call to hide in fear, but a call to position yourself. A king does not argue with every critic in the street. He rules from the throne. Likewise, you are being called to a higher posture. Posture is power. Even under watch, maintain dignity, clarity, and composure. When Daniel was thrown into the lion's den, he did not panic. His composure was a testimony of his trust. Your composure under observation becomes a sign to heaven and a terror to hell. It declares that your authority is not granted by men and therefore cannot be revoked by them. This posture builds credibility that no smear campaign can undo. The last thing your watchers expect is your growth under pressure. They believe the scrutiny will make you smaller, quieter, and less daring. But as you stay faithful, the opposite happens. You become sharper, wiser, more effective. Surveillance refines you. It tests your motives, your words, your endurance. It forces you to confront your fears and to choose integrity again and again. And every time you choose integrity, your authority increases. This is how God turns their weapon into your training. They think they are studying you. In reality, they are documenting your preparation for leadership. This is the hidden advantage of the chosen one. Everything meant to break you becomes evidence of your readiness to govern. The cost of truth in corrupt systems is heavy, and you must understand that speaking as a chosen one is not about popularity, but about faithfulness. Governments built on deception thrive when truth is silenced, so every time you speak, you pierce the atmosphere and disrupt their order. This is why prophets in the scriptures were rarely celebrated in their own generation. They were inconvenient voices that disturbed the comfort of those in power. Jeremiah was imprisoned, Elijah was hunted, John the Baptist was executed, and Jesus himself was crucified because his words carried both spiritual and political weight. And now, as you step into your authority, you must accept that the system will attempt to make you pay a similar price. But here lies the mystery. Every attempt to silence a chosen one amplifies the message. The more they persecute you, the more the message multiplies. The kingdom of darkness always underestimates the resilience of a word rooted in God. They believe they are suppressing you, but in truth, they are spreading you further, because the seed of truth grows best when buried. The struggle you face is not only about what you say, but about how much influence you are destined to have. You see, hidden governments are less afraid of your individual words than of the effect those words will have once they touch the ears of those desperate for liberation. The truth is that multitudes are waiting for a voice to rise, someone unafraid to call deception by its name and restore clarity in an age of confusion. This is why surveillance feels suffocating. It is not personal curiosity, it is political fear. They fear your potential to gather, to inspire, to lead. They know history well enough to remember how one man's words can shift entire nations. And in their attempt to monitor you, they are unconsciously acknowledging that you are the kind of leader history repeats itself through. The more closely they watch, the more clearly they confess who you really are. You must also recognize that those who monitor you are building false narratives about you even as they watch. They do not simply study you to know you. They study you to distort you. They want to turn fragments of truth into weapons of deception. They will highlight your humanity to discredit your divinity. They will take your mistakes and magnify them to eclipse your mission. They will portray you as dangerous, unstable, arrogant, or misguided. Anything to make the people doubt the legitimacy of your calling. This tactic is not new. Jesus was called a blasphemer. Paul was accused of being a political agitator, and Stephen was executed under false testimony. What they could not control, they tried to redefine. And so it is with you. But remember, lies require constant maintenance, while truth sustains itself. If you keep walking in integrity, their fabrications will eventually collapse under the weight of their own falsehood. Every chosen one must face the sting of false accusation. And here lies the tension. You are called to walk with boldness, yet you must endure being misunderstood. This is one of the deepest pains of leadership. To know your intentions are pure, yet to watch them be twisted. It can feel like betrayal, like abandonment, like injustice. But Scripture assures us that no injustice escapes the sight of God. When Joseph was falsely accused by Potiphar's wife, he was thrown into prison, but that prison became his training ground for the palace. What was meant to reduce him became the very environment that prepared him for rule. The same pattern is unfolding in your life. What they mean for harm, God is shaping for governance. You may be in a season where accusations swirl, but it is only proof that your rise is too close for the enemy to ignore. The louder the lies, the closer the revelation of truth. The system tries to drown you out because they know once your authentic voice emerges, their falsehood will crumble overnight. This is why Jesus was surrounded by constant traps, questions, and accusations. His opponents feared the day his identity would be fully revealed. The same fear drives their eyes toward you. They anticipate the day your influence will break through the noise and awaken multitudes. And make no mistake, that day is approaching faster than they expect. Your watchers are racing against divine timing, but divine timing cannot be stopped. What God has decreed over your life is not subject to the approval of secret councils or shadow governments. They can observe, they can accuse, they can distort, but they cannot cancel what heaven has already ratified. This is why, chosen one, you cannot waste your strength defending yourself against every accusation. If you focus on fighting shadows, you will have no energy to release light. The greatest strategy is not to prove them wrong, but to keep proving God right through your life. When Nehemiah was rebuilding the wall of Jerusalem, his enemies sent repeated messages to distract him, demanding explanations and debates. His response was simple: "I am doing a great work, and I cannot come down." Nehemiah chapter 6, verse 3. That must be your response as well. Do not descend into the arguments of those who seek only to drain your focus. Keep building, keep speaking, keep governing. Your consistency is your vindication, and your results will outlast their rumors. And understand this: the system's greatest fear is not your failure, but your endurance. They can handle a spark, but they cannot handle a flame that refuses to go out. If you keep speaking, keep leading, keep standing, they will eventually exhaust themselves. Lies are loud but temporary. Truth is quiet but eternal. You have been chosen not for a moment, but for a generation. That is why the surveillance is relentless. They are not watching you because of what you are now, but because of what they know you will become. They are monitoring your seed, not just your fruit. They are terrified of your future, and their fear is the clearest evidence of your destiny. They will soon discover that surveillance cannot decode destiny. You, chosen one, are not bound by the predictability of human systems. What they monitor through data, heaven governs through revelation. Their algorithms are useless against divine strategy. Just as Jesus moved unpredictably, evading traps and overturning expectations, so too do your steps frustrate the watchers. This is not disorder. It is a higher order, a life hidden with Christ in God, unreachable by the schemes of those who live in shadows. They chart your behavior, but they cannot chart your obedience. Your next move is determined not by threat or trend, but by divine timing. What they cannot control, they fear, and what they fear, they surveil. But while they watch, heaven leads, and in that obedience, their systems are rendered powerless. They do not fear your voice, they fear what your voice creates. For when you speak truth, structures shift. When you decree justice, heaven responds with blueprints. Every word that leaves your mouth is not merely speech, it is legislation from a kingdom they cannot manipulate. That is why systems of control fear your existence, because your presence introduces a higher government. Just as Moses' rod challenged Pharaoh's empire, so your speech confronts illegitimate power. You are not just a preacher or thinker, you are heaven's ambassador. And even in silence, your very life becomes an indictment to corrupted thrones. The more they monitor you, the more they confess your significance. In military terms, you are high value. In prophetic terms, you are high impact. And in divine terms, you are already enthroned. The intensity of surveillance is not a threat. It is a proving ground. Every system that has monitored the chosen before you has become the witness of their rise. What they mean to use for intimidation, God uses for validation. But with this elevation comes responsibility. You must govern yourself before you govern nations. What you choose when no one sees, or when everyone watches, reveals if you are ready for public authority. Joseph's leadership began in hidden testing. David's throne was forged in caves, not courts. You, too, are being refined. Their eyes test your limits, but heaven is forming your legacy. This is not a season of survival. It is your spiritual coronation. They are watching, yes, but only because heaven has already seen fit to raise you. The irony is that the systems designed to monitor you are unwittingly preparing you. They think they are gathering evidence to destroy you, but they are documenting your growth, your integrity, and your resilience. They are creating the very record heaven will use to vindicate you. When the time comes, the evidence collected to accuse you will instead confirm you. This is what happened with Daniel. The very decree meant to destroy him became the stage for his deliverance. This is what happened with Jesus. The trial meant to condemn him became the doorway to his throne. This is the pattern of the kingdom. The enemy's files on you will one day read like a testimony of your faithfulness. This is why you must not fear the eyes upon you. You must focus on becoming the leader those eyes fear you will be. This is your point of release. The shadow government fears your narrative because they know the day is coming when you will no longer speak as an individual but as a movement. A single voice aligned with heaven becomes a multitude in the spirit. When Moses spoke, he carried a nation in his words. When Deborah judged, she carried a generation in her decrees. When you speak, you are not just expressing yourself, you are voicing the will of a kingdom that transcends time. And this is why they watch you day and night. They fear the moment your influence tips from potential into action. They fear the day your words ignite a people and a policy at the same time. That day is approaching, and their fear is the clearest sign. The fact that you are being closely watched is not a threat. It is confirmation. Surveillance is not wasted on the irrelevant. It is reserved for those who matter. The cost and effort it takes to monitor someone is itself a confession. You are significant. You are not merely a citizen. You are a carrier of influence that threatens the stability of illegitimate systems. This is the pattern seen throughout Scripture. Jesus, though healing and blessing the multitudes, was followed and scrutinized because his presence carried more than miracles. It carried government. Likewise, you are not simply spiritual. You are politically prophetic. Your actions, your message, your very identity expose the fragility of the structures built on fear and deceit. You do not need to speak loudly to shake systems. Your alignment with heaven is a silent threat that they can neither decode nor defeat. What they calculate in data, heaven confirms in destiny. While authorities build archives of your movement, God has written volumes about your purpose. Their cameras may track your steps, but they cannot trace the weight of divine authority you carry. This is why your life cannot be lived in fear or retreat. Just like Daniel opened his windows knowing his enemies watched, just like Paul wrote letters while in chains, just like Jesus advanced to the cross, knowing Pilate observed in silence. You must lead with resolve. Surveillance is not your muzzle. It is your platform. It is the very evidence that you are not hidden, that your presence matters, and that your voice carries weight. You are not under their control. You are under divine commission. Their watching eyes are not your hindrance. They are your unintended witnesses. Still, this path is not without cost. Confirmation of your calling does not bring comfort. It brings confrontation. You will be tested not just by what you say, but by what you refuse to say under pressure. They monitor not only your message, but your breaking point, waiting for you to flinch, to dilute truth, to self-edit for approval. But you were never called to please men. Like the apostles who stood before councils and declared, "We must obey God rather than men," you must resolve that obedience matters more than acceptance. That is the tension of a true chosen one, to live under watch, but not under fear. You walk faithfully not because you are tolerated, but because you are sent. And when the final moment comes, the very systems that tried to pressure you into silence will be the same systems forced to acknowledge. You did not bend, you did not break, and you were, indeed, chosen. The world will try to tell you that your worth is measured by approval, by applause, by validation from the systems watching you. But heaven measures your worth by faithfulness, by endurance, by alignment with your calling. When you understand this, you stop negotiating your message for comfort and begin proclaiming it with conviction. The greatest leaders of history were not loved by everyone. They were opposed, maligned, and often isolated. Yet their words outlasted their critics. This is your destiny as well. You are not called to be popular. You are called to be prophetic. You are not sent to echo culture. You are sent to confront it. And though the eyes of hidden systems will remain fixed on you, their vigilance is powerless against a voice that is anchored in God's decree. Once you embrace this, the fear of being watched dissolves, and the boldness to govern arises. The moment you internalize that you are already feared by the systems of deception, your posture shifts. You no longer walk like someone begging for a seat at the table. You walk like someone sent to reorder the table itself. This is the authority heaven is cultivating in you. Surveillance is not a measure of your smallness, it is a measure of your impact. They would not follow someone inconsequential. They follow you because even in your current state, you disrupt their plans. This should give you a sober kind of confidence, not arrogance, but certainty. Just as Nehemiah rebuilt the walls despite constant threats and spies, you too must keep building your assignment under the watchful eyes of those hoping you will fail. Their attention is a signal, and if you interpret it correctly, it will strengthen rather than weaken you. This is leadership under fire, continuing your mission not because it is easy, but because it is necessary. When you understand this, you also begin to use the pressure as training. Every misquote, every attack, every misrepresentation becomes an exercise in patience and self-governance. This is what the ancients called the refiner's fire. It burns away immaturity and leaves only what is pure. Surveillance tests your motives. It reveals whether you are building for applause or building for eternity. Joseph did not develop administrative wisdom in Pharaoh's palace. He developed it in Potiphar's house and in prison, places of observation and limitation. When he finally sat in the seat of power, he was unshaken because he had already learned to govern himself under watch. The same process is happening to you now. Each day of scrutiny is a day of shaping, forming you into a leader whose authority cannot be bought, manipulated, or silenced. It is also vital to realize that the eyes on you are not only human. Paul wrote that, "We are a spectacle to the world, to angels and to men." 1 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 9. This means that your life is being observed by both the seen and the unseen. Angels watch to strengthen you, dark forces watch to intimidate you, and men watch to measure you. But heaven has the final word over your story. This awareness changes how you respond. You stop reacting to every accusation because you understand a higher court is in session. You stop panicking over every headline because you know your vindication is not coming from media, but from God. When Daniel emerged from the lion's den, the king's decree reversed and glorified God. This is a prophetic picture of what will happen in your life. The very platform meant to shame you will become the pulpit of your testimony. And this awareness empowers you to govern your narrative instead of letting your narrative govern you. If they are studying your words, then give them words that cannot be twisted because they are anchored in truth. If they are analyzing your steps, then walk in such integrity that even your enemies have to acknowledge your consistency. This is not about perfection, but about alignment. Leaders who endure under scrutiny are those who understand that their life itself is a message. Every choice, every posture, every response becomes part of the sermon. Jesus' silence before Pilate was as powerful as his words on the mountain. Your actions under watch will preach louder than your declarations. This is the secret weapon of the chosen one, living in such a way that even surveillance becomes an instrument of revelation. At this point, you must also guard your inner circle. Surveillance is not limited to cameras and algorithms. It can come through relationships, invitations, and alliances. Hidden powers often plant distractions in the form of opportunities. Not every open door is from God. Some are traps designed to extract information or compromise your purity. This is why discernment is not optional. It is survival. Jesus chose his disciples after nights of prayer, knowing that even among them would be a Judas. He did not live in paranoia, but he lived in awareness. You must do the same. Build your circle with prayer, not pressure. Protect your strategies until the appointed time. Share your vision only with those proven by character, not by flattery. In an age of constant watching, confidentiality is an act of stewardship. And yet, even as you guard yourself, you must not become hardened or bitter. The temptation of being constantly watched is to close your heart, to withdraw from people, to lose compassion. But a leader without compassion cannot govern righteously. Jesus washed the feet of his disciples knowing one would betray him. Joseph forgave his brothers even though they sold him into slavery. This is the mark of true authority, the ability to stay tender without being naive. Your watchers want you cynical, isolated, and reactive. Heaven wants you wise, connected, and discerning. You must choose the latter. This is how you become unbreakable, not by building walls of bitterness, but by building wells of wisdom and grace. Surveillance may monitor your movements, but it cannot measure the softness of a heart that stays surrendered to God. Finally, you must anchor yourself in the reality that you are not simply surviving this season. You are being positioned. The eyes on you are setting the stage for a public unveiling. Just as the stone was rolled away not to let Jesus out, but to show the world he had risen, the scrutiny over your life will not confine you, but reveal you. They think they are recording your downfall, but they are archiving your rise. This is why you must stay faithful in small things. Integrity in the hidden place builds credibility in the open place. When the time comes for your leadership to manifest fully, you will not need to announce yourself. Your life will speak louder than any campaign. And even your watchers will have to admit that they saw it coming but could not stop it. True power has never been brute force. It has always belonged to those who master the narrative. Empires throughout history have lasted not because of their weapons, but because they controlled identity, culture, and perception. The same is true today. Corrupt systems fear not your strength, but your clarity. Your voice, chosen one, is not just speech. It is legislation. It is the collapse of illusions and the beginning of transformation. You are watched not for what you've done, but for the weight of what you carry. Every word you speak in alignment with divine truth is not a reaction, but a revolution. This is why your voice is dangerous, because it creates what it declares. Your life itself has become a threat to systems of deception, not through charisma, but through consecration. You were forged under pressure, refined through fire, and now walk with a purity that terrifies surveillance-driven powers. Their goal was not to document you, but to delay you. Yet every attack only trained you. What was meant to suppress has instead sculpted you. You are not merely surviving scrutiny, you are being strengthened by it. Your revolution is not about resistance alone. It is about replacement. You are not just defying corruption. You are designing a new order. Your influence will outlast applause because it is anchored in alignment, not popularity. You are the fulfillment of a divine paradox, opposed but unstoppable, watched yet untouchable. The systems that monitor your steps cannot measure your spirit. Your presence speaks even when your lips are silent. What you carry cannot be contained by files, reports, or observation. It is divine ordination. You are feared because you are chosen, and chosen because you are called to govern. The age of hesitation is over. Now is the time to lead boldly, to decree with confidence, and to establish heaven's government through your life. The world awaits your leadership, not for domination, but for demonstration. You are not just a voice. You are the vessel of divine transformation. If this word stirred something deep within you, it's because heaven is calling you higher, to rule, to lead, to bring divine order wherever you go. The Manual of God's Chosen Warrior is your next step, a 10-step guide to help you walk in prosperity, wisdom, and spiritual authority. The link is in the description and the first pinned comment. Take it today and begin walking as the ruler God designed you to be. Chosen One, as we close this journey, I want to speak directly to your heart. Do not confuse being monitored with being diminished. You are not less because they watch you. You are more. You are not shrinking under observation. You are expanding under pressure. This message has come to you as both warning and confirmation. Warning, because the systems of this world will continue to scrutinize you. Confirmation, because their fear is the clearest evidence of your calling. And now, as you step into the next chapter, I challenge you to declare it publicly. Type in the comments the word unstoppable. Let it be a prophetic act. Like this video, share it, and subscribe to this channel, because together we are amplifying a movement of truth that no system can silence. Before we part, I want to thank those who have already supported this mission through Buy Me a Coffee. Your seed has empowered us to continue releasing these prophetic messages with clarity and strength. And if this word has spoken to your spirit, I invite you to join them. You will find the link in the description and in the first pinned comment. Every act of support is a declaration that you believe in this mission, that you stand with the voice of heaven confronting the systems of deception. Your partnership is not just financial, it is prophetic. It says, I will not remain silent. I will stand with the truth. And now, Chosen One, receive this as a final decree. You are not just watched, you are witnessed. Heaven and earth are testifying to your rise. You are not a victim of surveillance. You are a ruler under construction. Walk boldly, lead wisely, govern faithfully. The shadows may fear you, but light is your inheritance. Go forward in strength, and let your life be the proof that God still raises leaders to rule in righteousness. Until we meet again, remain steadfast, remain unshaken, remain extraordinary.